I bet that pizza tastes good.
You've never seen a place like Showbiz Pizza Place. We'll serve you a pizza second to none. So come for pizza, stay for the fun.
Showbiz Pizza Place with over 60 electronic games, pizza baked fresh every day, and the stage show extravaganza on 3 stages.
So come for pizza, stay for the fun.
Chuck E. Cheese's, known as the place where a kid can be a kid, has been a part of everyone's childhood, including me. This popular pizza chain with arcades and animatronics has spread all around the globe, from California to Texas to Florida to Illinois. But there's one location that I would like to talk about, and that place is Paducah, Kentucky. Because believe it or not, this location has some significant history not just to the state of Kentucky, but also to Chuck E. Cheese as a whole. And I think it would be cool to explore that. So in this video, I will be going over the entire 40-year history of this lesser-known but still important Kentucky location. From a popular competitor to the main mouse himself to its unfortunate future. This is the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Paducah, Kentucky. By the way, this video is a collaboration with the YouTube user Chatty Chucky, who was kind enough to help out with information as well as providing photos and videos. So before I talk about Chuck E. Cheese's in Paducah, I want to quickly go over the history of each. Chuck E. Cheese's was founded on May 17, 1977, and opened its first location in San Jose, California. It was created by Nolan Bushnell, who was also the co-founder of the video game company Atari. He wanted to make a place that families could hang out and play the latest arcade games, since before this arcades were seen as dangerous places due to violence. As for Paducah, Kentucky's history, it's a little complex. Paducah, Kentucky was settled in 1815, and it was originally known as Perkin. Most of the people who lived there were either Native Americans or European settlers. It wasn't until 1827 when William Clark, who was part of the famous Lewis and Clark duo, bought the land and renamed it Paducah, the name being a reference to the Paducah Indians who lived there. Finally, in 1856, it was officially declared a city. It currently has a population of 27,559 people as of 2020, making it the 16th largest city in Kentucky. Obviously a great place for that big fat pizza rat to expand to. However, while I've been mentioning Chucky a lot, he wasn't the first one to settle there. Instead, it was a certain one-toothed bear in overalls who called the Quilt City home.
Ladies and gentlemen, Showbiz Pizza Place presents all new shows.
Well, press this here note down, and the music goes down and round.
Showbiz Pizza Place is the most fun place in town. With over 60 new electronic games, the finest pizza, salads, and sandwiches around. And Billy Bob and the Rock-a-Fire Explosion entertaining in all new shows every few minutes. Now, more than ever, come for the pizza, stay for the fun.
Back in the early 80s, it was announced that the city of Paducah, Kentucky was getting its own large-scale shopping mall, named the Kentucky Oaks Mall. Along with the mall, it was also announced that several businesses would be joining the mall property, and one of those places just so happened to be a certain well-known and popular family pizzeria restaurant. That's right, it was none other than Showbiz Pizza Place, with Billy Bob Broccoli the Bear and his own gang of animal friends. Now, if you don't know what Showbiz Pizza Place is, then let me explain. So the history of Showbiz Pizza is a little complicated, but to summarize, Showbiz Pizza was founded on March 3rd, 1980, and opened its first location in Kansas City, Missouri. It was founded by Robert Brock, who was also the founder of the Brock Hotels Corporation. He was originally a franchisee with Pizza Time Theater, but then saw companies making more advanced animatronics and decided to start his own company, with the help of Aaron Fechter, the founder of Creative Engineering. I'll talk more about their history as the video goes on, but for now, let's get back to Paducah. The Showbiz Pizza place of Paducah, Kentucky opened on December 9th, 1982, to the joy of locals everywhere. Not just because it was a new restaurant, but because it was the first ever Showbiz Pizza place to open in the state of Kentucky. Up until that point, Chuck E. Cheese was running the Bluegrass State. It was also the 128th Showbiz Pizza location to open. The restaurant was located on the Holt Road entrance to the Kentucky Oaks Mall, meaning if someone was driving on Holt Road and wanted to go to the mall, they would have to drive right next to the Showbiz Pizza place. When it first opened, it was a franchise location owned by Pumezco Incorporated. The owners of the actual building were Bill Metzger and Jim Pullen, who were both former savings and loans businessmen. They actually quit their jobs altogether just to open this Showbiz Pizza. This location also hired about 75 employees for the grand opening. The building is only about 1 story tall and around 9,200 square feet. The exterior was just a normal standard Showbiz Pizza exterior, with red and yellow details and the Showbiz Pizza Place logo on the front of the building. This location was actually referred to as the fastest built and best built Showbiz ever created at the time. Sadly, there are no interior photos, so I don't know what it looked like, though it probably looked like any other Showbiz Pizza location that opened around that time, with the same red, orange, and yellow colors as the outside. They had a large game room with over 60 arcade games. Some of the games at the location include Pac-Man, Track and Field, Centipede, Dig Dug, a can game, air hockey, and a basketball game, amongst others. And for smaller children, there was an area that had some small rides like a rocket ship, a fire engine, and the ever-so-popular Billy Bob merry-go-round. There was also a salad bar, and they sold other food items like sandwiches, ice cream, and even beer for the adults, that is. And of course the pizza, which was probably better than what Chuck E. Cheese had. There were 2 dining areas at this Showbiz Pizza, the first being an area referred to as the Television Center, which I'm guessing is similar to the sports room I talked about in my Cincinnati video a few months back. That room had a large TV that played sports games, but maybe this room also had a large TV but just played normal TV shows and movies along with sports games. I'm not sure about this one. The second dining area was the main dining area, referred to as the showroom. This is where you could go to get the real entertainment, provided by the Rockafire Explosion Band. This band of animated animals performed on 3 stages, singing popular songs and performing comedy routines. The characters on the stage included Rolf the Wolf with his puppet Earl, Duke LaRue the drum-playing dog, Fats Geronimo the gorilla on the keyboard, Beach Bear on the guitar, Mitzi Mozzarella the lead female singer who's also a mouse, Billy Bob the bear who's playing the guitar and who's also the mascot of Showbiz Pizza, and last but not least Looney Bird the drunk bird who drinks gas and lives in a can. There have also been rumors of Paducah having the elusive and kinda creepy Uncle Clunk, and the even more rare Santa Claus retrofit. But these haven't been confirmed. There were also a few prop characters that would pop up from time to time, such as the sun, the moon, Choo Choo the bear cub, and the birthday spider. There was also a Billy Bob mascot who was used when the band wasn't performing, or when there was a birthday party. Speaking of birthdays, this location actually held up to 50 birthdays a week, and around 2,500 a year. Billy Bob also made multiple appearances outside of Showbiz Pizza, though I'm not sure what events Paducah's Billy Bob attended. As the years went by, Showbiz was still able to draw new visitors, and even hosted a ton of events. For example, before the grand opening, there was a huge VIP party with over 350 people in attendance. Starting in 1983, the restaurant held Colander Nights on select Wednesdays. These were nights where you could decorate colander bowls and win prizes. There were also several Easter and Christmas events held there. This restaurant also held sweepstakes people could win, including a trip to Disney World. And of course, the restaurant held teen nights on weekends from 10 p.m. to midnight, although these nights would spell doom for the restaurant. Since Showbiz was such a popular place and many people hung out there, it's safe to say some things that happened at this location weren't so good. Because the restaurant held teen nights, there were several issues with teenagers loitering. This also applies to adults as well. There were also some cases of vandalism, a few robberies, and car break-ins. I'm hoping what I'm saying isn't offending any of you who are Paducah residents. I'm not saying your city is bad. This is all for educational purposes. At least they have cleaned up on the crime rate today. At least I think they did. As for other notable events or incidents that happened at the Showbiz Pizza, in 1983 there was a huge power outage that affected the entire Kentucky Oaks Mall property, including the Showbiz Pizza place. For 2 hours, the restaurant was pitch black with no light. And before somebody makes a FNAF comment, no, the Rockefeller weren't working either. It's safe to say that they lost a huge amount of customers that day. In August 1983, at around 6:15 p.m., there was a minor car accident in the Showbiz Pizza parking lot. Thankfully, there were only a few minor injuries and no charges were filed. But not everything that happened at Showbiz was negative. In June 1984, a 12-year-old girl celebrated her birthday party by being driven to Showbiz on a fire truck. That was so cool. As we entered the late 80s, the Showbiz Pizza place of Paducah, Kentucky was still going strong and pretty much everything stayed the same, except for a few things. First, they got new wall art in the form of Rockefeller movie poster parodies. There were also a few wall planters added. Next, there was a major change to the Rockefeller explosion, more specifically the Billy Bob and Looney Bird stage. The backdrop was changed from Smitty's Super Service Station to the Showbiz Pizza Campground. This was done to make the stage more unique compared to the other Rockefeller stages at different Showbiz Pizzas. This backdrop was not exclusive to Paducah. Finally, there was also a major change for the restaurant. So as we all know, in 1984, Chuck E. Cheese filed for bankruptcy, and Showbiz Pizza bought them. Then in 1986, the companies merged, and during that merger, the companies were able to cross over brands. And so around the late 80s, Chuck E. Cheese made his official debut at the Paducah Showbiz Pizza place. There were also rumors of a Munch and Jasper costume being introduced here too. By the way, I will be going through Paducah's mascot costume evolution in this video too. Chuck being in the restaurant at the same time Billy Bob was, is a foreshadowing of what is soon to come, as just a few years later, Chuck went from a friend to a foe.
At Chuck E. Cheese's,
Hi,
we love all kinds of kids.
Hi, Melissa.
Even your little monkey.
Hi, Bernard.
So if you've got a little monkey at your house, bring him to
Kentucky Cheeses.
Have you seen Bernard? Bernard?
Kid can be a kid.
Oh, Bernard! Bernard!
As the early 90s came along, the Showbiz Pizza place in Paducah, Kentucky was still going strong, but behind the scenes within the Showbiz Pizza Time Incorporated company, things were anything but going strong. You see, the company was trying to get the rights to the Rockefeller explosion, but Aaron Fechter, the creator of the Rockefeller explosion, didn't want to give up the rights to the band. And so instead, the company created something that will make a Showbiz fan's spine tingle: concept unification. For those of you unaware, concept unification was this process where the Rockefeller explosion would go completely extinct and be stripped down to their endoskeletons, only to be replaced by the Chuck E. Cheese characters, also known as Munch's Make-Believe Band. Rolf the Wolf became Chuck E. Cheese himself, Mitzi Mozzarella became Helen Henny, Fats Geronimo became Mr. Munch, Beach Bear became Jasper T. Giles, and Duke LaRue became everyone's favorite Pasquale the Chef. The prop characters were also replaced. The sun became the building, Choo Choo became Munch Jr., and the spider was removed completely and replaced with the wink. The moon, however, stayed behind. This change to the animatronics wasn't the only thing that changed, as the whole company was rebranded and the Showbiz Pizza name was dropped, in favor of the name Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza, though some stores still kept the Showbiz name. Paducah, as to my knowledge, didn't keep the name. Speaking of Paducah, they started concept unification in September 1992, which is pretty late compared to other Showbiz Pizza locations. They were one of the last locations to convert to Chuck E. Cheese. The remodel cost about $100,000 and was completed in the fall of 1992. This saddened many Showbiz fans as the characters they once knew and loved for years were now dead, and in their place were these essentially knockoffs. Now, I do actually like the Chuck E. Cheese bots, but it's still sad to see the Rockefeller go. You can actually watch the full concept unification tape on YouTube, but I will warn you, it might make you cry. Despite the rebranding of the restaurant, there were still a few Showbiz remnants. While the Showbiz logo was replaced by the Chuck E. Cheese Pizza logo, and the whole exterior was painted, the building itself was not changed in terms of structure. The interior was also the same, just the wall art was removed and the walls were painted. Also on the inside, the colorful checkers were added onto the walls. This also goes for the outside as well. I mainly wanted to use this section to talk about the Chuck E. Cheese animatronic 3 stage, and that is where most of the Showbiz remnants were. For starters, the stage would still have wood lining on them, and they actually kept the blue Rockefeller valance. As for the animatronics, all the characters had their original latex cosmetics, aka the older versions of CEC bots that actually look kinda creepy. Chucky was rocking his new, at the time, tuxedo, but interestingly, unlike the other 3 stages, Chuck was not on a black triangle base, but instead, his feet were actually on the stage floor. Jasper kept the Beach Bear guitar, and Pasquale's drum front was actually a unique one. It was white with the letters TKO on it. Not sure what that means. And finally, the last and most important Showbiz Pizza remnant at the newly opened Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza in Paducah, Kentucky, was... they actually kept the wood paneling Showbiz walls! While some locations kept these as well, Paducah is the most famous example of this happening. They were also the last location to actually keep the Showbiz walls. This is also what Paducah was best known for. Shortly after the conversion, the restaurant got a new Tuxedo Chucky mascot costume. But that's not the only character that Paducah got. In either 1992 or 1993, they would receive both a Helen and a Jasper mascot suit, although these two weren't nearly as used as often as Chuck was. Also, I don't think I've ever seen this Helen hairstyle before during any of my research. In 1994, they received the newer version of the Tuxedo Chuck, aka the Duncan version, but other than that, everything stayed the same for about a year or two. Somewhere between 1995 and 1996, Paducah would receive new wall decor that was from the Phase 3 remodel. No, they didn't become a Phase 3 just yet, they just got some of the decor. Up until this point, the walls of the restaurant didn't have much on them aside from maybe a few advertisements. But really, the only wall decor they had were wall planters and some artwork like the Chuck E. Cheese confetti poster. The new wall art included sports magazine posters, drive-in posters, star decor on the walls, and the record posters. Along with the new wall decor, they also got a few new games. Some were added before these changes, but I'm still including them in this section. Some new games include Surf and Safari, Dino Score, Super Shot Basketball, and Coin Bananas. And finally, in the mid-90s, they received the plastic sky tubes and a brand new ball pit. Their next major remodel wouldn't happen until a couple years later, and thankfully this remodel wasn't too major.
Teamwork, team play, Team Chuck, friends all day. Teamwork, team fun, Team Chuck on the run. Teamwork, team rule, just have fun and be cool. At Chuck E. Cheese.
Somewhere between 1998 and 1999, Paducah's Chuck E. Cheese would go through another remodel. This time, It was a full Phase 3 conversion. Some of the early concept unification 90s decor and signage was removed and replaced with modern decor. Some of the new decor included a Super Chuck poster, Name That Cheese posters, and those colorful pop art Chuck posters. But I should mention some of the colorful checkers remained, like the ones above the front door entrance. Other changes include the removal of the ball pit, and they also got a new set of tubes called the Sky Tubes. There were also a few new games and rides added to replace some of the older games. This includes the iconic Red Car Chucky ride, which interestingly, unlike the standard one which had the Cool Chuck or Avenger Chuck, this one had the Chucky in his red vest and derby. This was the original one created for the ride. Oh, and before somebody asks, I'm not sure if Buzzy Buzzy Bee was added to this location. I certainly hope it was. And finally, the most major change was the removal of the 90s exterior signage, and it was replaced by the Phase 3 Yellow Sweater Cool Chuck sign. The restaurant also changed its name from Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza to just Chuck E. Cheese's. As we entered the 2000s, not much change occurred inside the restaurant. Or at least not when it comes to decor and the building, but as for the animatronics and mascot suits, there were a few changes. In 2000, Paducah got a brand new Chucky mascot head. It may have been the red cap head. Then in 2001, they received brand new outfits for Chuck, including the Chucky 01 outfit. Strangely enough, the Helen and Jasper walkarounds from the 90s were still used even with the new Chucky. Finally, sometime between 2002 and 2007, they would receive the ever-so-popular Avenger Chuck costume. As for the animatronics, they got even more major changes than the mascots did. For starters, around 2000 or 2001, all the characters were upgraded from the latex masks to the plastic masks, except for Munch Jr., because he was removed during this time. The Chucky animatronic received the Cool Chuck outfit sometime in the early 2000s. Then by 2008, he was updated to have the Avenger Chuck outfit. Finally, in 2007, a very major event took place at the Paducah location. It was a Halloween party, where none other than Peter Griffin from Family Guy was in attendance. Hey Lois, remember that time I was at Chuck E. Cheese? Yeah, I saw the chicken on the stage. I tried to fight it, but then I realized, oh my god, it's a robot. 2010 was not a good year for Paducah, Kentucky's Chuck E. Cheese, as there were two sad things that happened that year. First, the location was sold to CEC Corporate. Now this isn't really a sad thing, but it is sad when you realize Paducah was the last franchise location in the state of Kentucky. This meant corporate now owned all the Chuck E. Cheese's locations in Kentucky. The other sad thing was an incident that occurred in this year. What happened was two children were left behind at the location by a mother and aunt. Thankfully, the children were not hurt, and the women were both arrested. The kids were later sent to go live with hopefully more responsible relatives. Other than those two things I just mentioned, nothing too major involving Paducah's location happened. That was until 2012. As most CEC fans know, in 2012 the company retired Avenger Chuck and replaced him with Rockstar Chuck. And along with that came a new rebranding of the company and locations. While Paducah had just received a new short-furred dark gray Avenger Chuck costume a few years earlier, they opted to get the new costume, and in June 2013 they got a new Rockstar Chuck walkaround costume, which they continue to use today. Sadly, Helen and Jasper started to get phased out around this time. They were barely used at all. Going over the animatronic stage, there were not many changes made during this either, but there were a few. Before Rockstar Chuck, sometime between 2010 and 2012, Pizza Cam was removed from the stage, but interestingly, his box stayed behind. Then after Rockstar Chuck was introduced around September 2013, the Chuggy Bot's hat was removed. So after corporate bought Paducah's location, they were considering giving the location Phase 4, but this ultimately never happened. However, in 2014, Paducah was given a minor remodel. Nothing too drastically changed. It was still going to be a Phase 3 store. They just got rid of wall planters, removed a few sports decor, and painted some walls purple. But don't worry guys, the wood paneling and wooden showbiz walls by the stage remained. Another strange thing that happened around this time was on May 9th, 2014, when a homeless man was arrested outside the Paducah Chuck E. Cheese's. This was because he kept staring at children and it was making people uncomfortable. And so someone told the employees told him to leave, and the homeless guy became belligerent, and he actually broke the windows of the restaurant. Safe to say the employees called the police and he was arrested. And people say Chuck E. Cheese has terrible security. By 2016, things were starting to change at the Paducah Chuck E. Cheese's restaurant. First, they got rid of tokens and replaced them with the dreaded Play Pass cards. Then they removed the red and yellow awnings above the door. On the bright side, they did start using the older Helen and Jasper costumes again. Finally, on the 3 stage, Pizza Cam's box was removed, and that was the last change to happen involving the animatronics, as a few years later, they would unexpectedly take their final bow.
Happy birthday!
Cool! Thanks, Mom!
Whoa!
Want the coolest birthday ever? Introducing birthday parties with unlimited games at Chuck E. Cheese's. All the tickets you can win. All the games you can play. Birthdays with unlimited games with the new Birthday Star Play Band. Only at Chuck E. Cheese's.
In August 2017, it was announced that Chuck E. Cheese was redesigning their restaurants and experimenting with new ideas. This is, of course, the cancer known as Chuck E. Cheese 2.0. Now, originally, only 7 locations were to receive this remodel, 4 in Kansas City and 3 in San Antonio. But sometime later in 2018, they bumped it up to 20 stores, which meant 13 additional locations would be remodeled, one of which was our beloved Paducah, Kentucky. I'm not sure why corporate chose Paducah for a remodel. Maybe they thought it was too outdated, maybe Paducah wanted the remodel, or maybe corporate just hated Paducah and wanted to piss off residents and fans of this location. Who knows? Now, unfortunately, unlike what I did in the Florence video, I can't give you a timeline for when Paducah's remodel started, or when it concluded. But I do know it started around September 2018, and it probably concluded a few months later. So, what changed? The exterior didn't see too much change. Really, the only changes made were to the top of the restaurant. The main part where the logo was is now green with that crappy Microsoft Paint No Eyebrows Chucky logo, which is also now on the road sign as well. The sides of the building now had these brown circular designs with the old school Chuck E. Cheese font on one side. The restaurant's name was changed from Chuck E. Cheese's to Chuck E. Cheese Pizzeria and Games. As for the interior, this is where the main changes took place. All the old store art was trashed and replaced with new artwork. Some of the older games were thrown out and new games were added. The prize corner was remodeled, the old carpet was ripped out and replaced, and all the dim lighting was removed. The worst part about the remodel was, of course, the change 2.0 is best known for. They removed the 3-stage and the animatronics! Again, I don't know why Paducah had to get remodeled, especially since the animatronics, while there isn't much video, appeared to be in good working condition. Why would they go after a store with bots in good condition? I would argue Paducah's bots were in better condition than some other well-known 3-stages in other locations. Okay, so I have good news and I have some bad news regarding Paducah's bots. The good news is they weren't destroyed. The bad news is they weren't preserved. Since this was an early 2.0 location, and Paducah's bots were in good condition, they were sent to another location for spare parts. Now, I would tell you what location they were sent to, but I've been advised not to, because some people might harass this location about the bots and try to buy them. So for their safety, I won't mention it in this video. But if you really want to know, I'll put up a picture of the location. If you know this location, please do not harass them about the bots, okay? Here it is. So you're probably wondering what replaced the animatronics. Well, it was of course a crappy dance floor and TVs. And the space the show was in is now table room. Who gets that joke? However, since Paducah was an early 2.0 remodel, there's some things about it that make it kinda unique compared to newer 2.0 remodels. For example, their dance floor is way bigger compared to newer remodels. It also has a purple border and individual LED lights that are able to make patterns, unlike today's dance floors, which are just giant TVs on the floor. Speaking of TVs, the TVs above the dance floor also show how old this remodel is, as instead of there being a giant TV on the wall, it's 6 TVs mounted above the dance floor. There are also lights around the showroom that are programmed with shows. Well, they were until recently. And finally, the walls where the stage once was now has those colorful character posters of Chucky, Helen, Munch, Jasper, and Pasquale. But something noteworthy is that this setup is actually unique to Paducah. You see, the location wanted the character posters to be in the 3-stage layout, but the people in charge of the remodel accidentally painted the wrong colors in the wrong places. So the characters are in the right places, but the colors are messed up. But some people actually like it like this. And unfortunately, the wooden showbiz walls by the stage were now removed, which I think is just as disrespectful as removing the bots. I mean, those things were there from the very beginning, and they didn't care enough to preserve those. Oh, did I mention the Jasper costume was also thrown out too? When these changes were implemented, people were of course not happy. 2.0 already gets extreme amounts of backlash, and Paducah getting remodeled was no different. Even some people who like the 2.0 remodel have said Paducah's isn't good. But I guess you could cut them some slack since it was an early 2.0 remodel. Most of us were just upset a great 3-stage had to be taken away from us at the hands of greedy corporate. However, I will say this. There are some remnants of the older versions of this location hidden inside there today. For example, on the maintenance door, they still have a Coach Cool Chuck Star logo. There's also a few games that still dispense tokens, even though they don't use tokens anymore. And some of these tokens are pretty cool. There are some older 2000s tokens, and even some Showbiz Pizza tokens. And best of all, there's even Pizza Time Theater tokens. Maybe Paducah's remodel isn't so bad. Oh wait, yeah it is. And that brings us to today. As of August 2022, the Chuck E. Cheese's in Paducah, Kentucky is alive and surprisingly still well despite being a 2.0. It's actually the most profitable location in the entire state of Kentucky, though that could just be because 2.0 prices are jacked up compared to non-remodeled locations. It currently has a 4.3 star rating on Google, the highest rated CEC in the state of Kentucky. If you want to visit this location, the address is 5142 Hinkleville Road, Paducah, Kentucky, 42001, located on the Holt Road entrance to the Kentucky Oaks Mall. You might want to visit soon because once a location gets remodeled into a 2.0, its lifespan decreases, and it could lose business and close. Not that such a thing would actually happen, but I'm just saying. But of course, CEC Corporate is smarter than me. And there you have it, the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Paducah, Kentucky. Before I end this video, I want to give a special thanks to Chatty Chuggy for helping me out with some information and photos. I couldn't have done this video without you. Make sure you go subscribe to him, and while you're at it, go follow him on Instagram, @chatty_chuck. Tell him Nathan sent you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the History of series. Bye-bye!
everybody! Get up and dance! Show me what you can do!